And we have found an individual tonight to speak to you about his life as a barbershopper from as young as you can possibly be and be involved in barbershop. From Houston, Texas, the director of the Space City Chorus, from the world of arranging, from Panda Ring, who is just retired, but I suspect there'll be another quartet on the board soon. Please welcome to the stage for our keynote, Patrick McAlexander. Thank you, man. You have your own mic?
Yes, I got my mic here. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. Hey, for those of you, thank you. Oh, make me feel right at home with the howdy. That's great. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patrick McAlexander. I'm really honored to be here as the keynote speaker. I've never done anything like this before, but I jumped at the opportunity because as a chorus director, I love the sound of my own voice. Although that's probably only true in the moment, I give myself about a 1% chance of making it through this whole thing on YouTube later after this gets posted. But that said, I'm going to enjoy this right now. If you know of me, you may know of me as an arranger, a judge, a chorus director, a quartet singer, or as I found out with my driver on the way up here, a guy who is very bad at responding to his emails. But if you really want to understand me and my barbershop journey, you'll have to go back before any of that happened. My first area of notoriety in this barbershop world was as a barbershop trivia nerd. If you've seen American Harmony, yes, I am the child in the end credits naming all of the champs. I was 13 years old. That was fun. It was the Four Statesmen who won in 1967. That's the one I forgot, yes. I know some of you have been waiting 17 years for the answer on that one. But that nerddom, I think, reflects what I believe is at the core of my barbershop journey, and that's that I am a lifelong fan and lover of barbershop music and the community and the traditions that surround it. I literally don't know a life without barbershop in it. I was born to parents who are down here who met at a barbershop convention singing tags. Yeah. I learned to reading barbershop CD jackets as a child. My family's big vacation every year when I was young was BHS International. I joined my dad's chorus, Circle City Sound, in Indianapolis when I was 7 years old. I did Sing with the Champs with Acoustics and Michigan Jake when I was 9 and 10 years old. And then I co-hosted a barbershop trivia class with Joe Conley at International, and I was 11 and 12. So all that is to say, I have been obsessed with barbershop since the moment that I was born, and I will continue to love barbershop until the day that I die. And it's with that context that I'm here to tell you something that I think is really important, or at least something that I believe. And that's that I believe that now, right now, is the best time to be a barbershopper ever. All right, we already got the applause. But for those of you who are not already applauding, I'm going to try to guess what you're thinking. Now, some of you, I suspect, may spend time on the internet. Maybe you've read or engaged in negative or contentious discourse that makes this hard to believe. I just hit my binder. That was great. Some of you, I'm sure, missed the days when BHS or SPBSQSA was only open to men. Some of you probably missed the days when you knew a lot less about your fellow barbershoppers' political beliefs. Some of you may miss a time when the music we sang and heard was simpler. And many of you may rightly point out the decline of our membership over the last 40 years. Some of you may blame all of that on the BHS itself, and some of you may point to your own chapters that have folded. But as much as I hear you on all of that and sympathize with you, and I don't want to minimize those difficulties, I want to ask you to keep an open mind here, at least through the time that we have together tonight, and hopefully through the rest of Harmony College East. So I'm going to talk about why I think now is the best time to be a barbershopper. And we're going to start with a few things that I think we can all find some agreement or common ground on. First, barbershop has never been easier to find than it is right now. There is so much barbershop content on the internet, so many chorus and quartet albums on streaming services, so many videos on YouTube. The BHS YouTube channel is just incredible with all kinds of content from the whole history of the Barbershop Harmony Society, and then all kinds of other just random videos posted by quartets and choruses and audience members. I have multiple members of my two choruses that I direct who found barbershop because YouTube suggested a newfangled 4 video to them. I'm sure there are some of you like that in this room, or at least if you're not that person, you probably know some of them in your own barbershop communities. So it's never been easier to share a barbershop with curious friends, family, coworkers, and strangers. And I think that's pretty great. So that's the first one. Can we all agree on that? All right, great. Second, the level of vocal talent and skill we have in the barbershop community today is absolutely astounding. The difficulty of the music sung in competition has risen significantly over the decades, and I would venture to guess that the top quartets are spending less time rehearsing together now than the top quartets of 30 to 40 years ago did. And yet the resulting music is still just unbelievable and well-crafted. And there's more and more members and more quartets who get it. We're seeing a rising number of quartets scoring 80s and 81s in contests. And I think that's because just quartets understand what it takes to make really high-level and impactful music, and that's pretty amazing. And yes, it's true that we're getting more accomplished singers from outside of the barbershop world coming to join us in barbershop, but I also think that barbershop is producing a lot of wonderful singers that go on to do amazing things, not only within our community, but in the outside music world as well. Our top quartet singers are smarter, more versatile, and more skilled than ever. And if you're not convinced about the unprecedented skill level of our quartets, which as someone who also loves old school quartets, I understand, I think it's even more evident in the choruses. The skill and artistry from our top choruses is on a completely different level from where it was 25, 30, 40 years ago. Like, we can still love those older chorus performances, but watch them side by side, and there's really no comparison in just the level of skill and artistry that's brought to these performances now. And what's really awesome is that the upper echelon of choruses is growing, right? There's more awesome choruses than there have been in the past. We've seen an amazing run of unpredictable chorus contests at the highest level. New choruses are entering the medals seemingly every year, and I think Mid-Atlantic District knows a little something about that. And yeah, absolutely. And more choruses are achieving A-level scores than ever before. So that's the second thing, right? The level of skill is just amazing. Can we all at least say, like, yeah, there's a lot of amazing barbershop singers right now? All right, excellent. So you may be thinking, well, those are reasons why it's great to be a barbershop fan now, but what about me as a participant? My chapter or my quartet doesn't have lofty competitive expectations or a big YouTube presence. So let's talk about another thing I think we can generally agree on, especially because we're here at this particular event, and that's that the level of instruction, knowledge sharing, and education in the barbershop world right now is better than ever. Whether it's in the area of vocal pedagogy, acting, arranging, choreography, conducting, musicality, and more, some of the very best instructors in the world are barbershop coaches and teachers. The outside world, particularly music education, has embraced barbershop more than ever, and barbershop too has embraced the outside music and performance world more than ever, meaning that our teaching is rooted in the same best practices in science that inform other wonderful performers and musicians outside of the barbershop world. And the judging program over this time has seen an influx of young applicants bringing new ideas and techniques and ultimately making it more competitive than ever to become a judge. And that all translates to all of our competitors receiving better feedback at contests. More and more quality instruction is available online, either through virtual education events or recordings of in-person events like this one. I had watched Aaron's keynote from 3 years ago, long before I was ever asked to do this one, but I went and watched it again after I was asked to do this one. And I said, well, I haven't gone through that kind of trauma. Mine won't be as good as hers, but we're going to do our best. Also, a big part of education that we have is just the widespread availability of high-quality learning tracks. That completely changes the way that we learn music. It's not just learning notes and words. Our music learning process is infused with just great vocal models and instruction just by example. Education has become more and more central to our barbershop community over the past couple decades, and this, I think, is unquestionably fantastic. So, are we good so far? All right. Okay. So now I'm going to get into some topics that may be a little touchier, where perhaps some of you will be less likely to agree with me. And I ask again that you remember that I am a fan and lover of barbershops past, present, and future, and I hope that you keep an open mind and hear me out. So here's one. The level of creativity, not just at the very top of the competitive ladder, but throughout the barbershop community, is extraordinarily high right now, and I think that's incredibly exciting. Barbershop music has always evolved, and competitive groups have always pushed themselves to new heights. But what we've seen over the past 20 years is unprecedented in our community. All right, it's nerd time for a second. In the 2005 International Quartet Finals, OC Times sang what I believe to be one of the most important contest sets in barbershop history. They debuted Arundale's arrangements of Put Your Head on My Shoulder and the Save the Last Dance for Me and Sway medley in the finals. They went on to earn 5th place medals that night after having finished 18th the previous year. And I believe that with that set and really all of their songs that week, they began a revolution in repertoire selection in barbershop. They showed us that branching out from Tin Pan Alley or Great American Songbook style songs wasn't just a fun gimmick that a quartet could do every once in a while, but could be a viable way for a quartet to find and establish its identity, not just through arrangements or through the way they performed, but through the songs that they sang. And now, songs from all kinds of genres of music can be heard on our BHS stages. New stories are told, new sounds are explored, different people's nostalgia is unlocked. It's not just nostalgia for the 20s or 30s or 40s, it's nostalgia for the 60s, nostalgia for the 90s, nostalgia for the 80s, right? And new connections are made between ensemble and audience. And make no mistake, this was not caused by any changing in the way that contests are judged. This was caused by the desire of ensembles to thrill their audiences in new ways. Quartets and choruses are constantly searching for ways to stand out, with repertoire at the center of that search. And as a result, we all have more options available to us for how to entertain our audiences, right? Those OC Times arrangements have trickled down to all of us in barbershop, and that's true for a lot of the exploration that different groups have done over the last 20 years. And I think that's pretty cool. And of course, none of that would be possible without the plethora of arranging skill in our community now. 20 years ago, it felt like everything new came from David Wright, Aaron Dale, or Clay Hine. And those guys are still doing amazing work today. And there's so many other arrangers who are just doing incredible things. There's the prolific ones like Theo Hicks, Dan Wessler, Melody Hine, who I saw, I think, walk in here, Cole Kitzmiller, who's here with us, and some guy named Patrick. Yes, that was supposed to be funny. Thank you for laughing. There are the less prolific arrangers who can always be trusted to do excellent work, like Anthony Bartholomew, Wayne Grimmer, Joey Minshall, and Justin Miller. Then there are the rising arrangers whose names you may not know yet, but you will soon, like Danny Mulligan, Nate Fink, and my sister, Maggie. That was from my dad, the clap. Now, and also in that, I feel bad for the number of names that I left out because there's just so many awesome arrangers doing incredible work, and that's just completely different from where we were 20 years ago, and I think that is just one of the best things about being a barbershopper right now. And I know that for some of you, not all the new stuff may be your favorite. At times, it can feel like some of the new stuff is following a couple of familiar patterns, and at times, I've agreed with you watching some of these contests. But last year in Cleveland, I watched just about every quartet performance, and I came out just completely blown away by the variety and inspired by all of the incredible music making out there. I had actually spent the last couple years before that decreasing how much arranging I was doing. I was just a little burnt out and looking to control my workload a little bit. And then after Cleveland, I was like, there's so much cool stuff going on. I have to be part of it. I want to do more. I've got to step it up. And I've loved it and regretted it over the last year. But I wanted to be part of it, a bigger part of it. And I think it's important to say here, too, that none of this means that the old songs have to go away. I hope they don't, and I don't think they will. Personally, as a judge and as an audience member, I'm excited to hear all barbershop, both old and new, and I think all of us get to forge our own path and sing the music that brings us joy and also will put us in the best position to bring an audience joy. And we're in a better position now to do that than ever before. Now, I'm sure you've been waiting for this next part because it's impossible to talk about this moment in barbershop history without talking about the impact of the BHS's vision of everyone in harmony, and particularly the impact of opening BHS to all people, regardless of gender. I hope I can bring some new perspective to you on why I think that this is such a wonderful moment and opportunity for us. In a way, my experience with BHS was always an Everyone in Harmony experience. My family went to every Cardinal District convention when I was growing up. Drew, you gonna cheer? Brandon, you gonna cheer? No? Cardinal District? No? Come on. We sat in the front row and heckled the MCs. That's what I'm looking for here. My dad and I would compete in the chorus, and we would compete in quartets. My sister was brought on stage at every convention to draw winning raffle tickets. Eventually, my mom took over as the backstage manager. BHS was a place where all of us belonged, even though not all of us could fully participate musically at the time. We also went to Sweet Adeline's conventions when I was growing up, but there, my dad and us kids were spectators. We were outsiders. And that's not a dig, by the way, just a difference in priorities. My experience is that Sweet Adeline's has centered giving women a creative and social outlet, while BHS has centered barbershop as a style that brings people together. And so I believe that Everyone in Harmony allows BHS to become a stronger version of what it already was. I now direct both an all-voices chorus and a men's chorus in Houston, and I also regularly coach one of our local Sweet Adeline's choruses. These three choruses all have very unique cultures from each other due to not just the different gender makeup, but other factors like competitive ambitions, community engagement, age diversity, afterglow culture, and more. And I am so grateful that in my corner of the barbershop world, just about anyone can find a barbershop experience that fulfills them. And I want that for every corner of the barbershop world. One thing that I want to highlight in particular, though, is how the evolution of mixed barbershop is going to help all of us, whether we sing in mixed or all voices groups or not. A couple of years ago, I was talking to a prominent barbershopper, and she sheepishly told me that she just doesn't really like mixed barbershop. And my response to her was simple. We don't know what mixed barbershop is yet. Single-gender ensembles have decades and decades of traditions, trial and error, and best practices to pull from. Mixed groups benefit from some of that, but in many ways, these groups have had to start from scratch. All voices ensembles are inventing and reinventing barbershop on a daily basis in ways that single-gender groups haven't had to do for a very, very long time. And with that all in mind, I think it's pretty incredible how good so many of these groups have gotten in what I would still consider the very early experimental years in the evolution of mixed barbershop. I can't even imagine what innovations the next 10 years are going to bring, but as a fan of barbershop music, I am very excited to see what we come up with. I think it's going to be really cool. And now as for all that helps all of us, the growing variety of combinations of voice types creates new challenges, limitations, and opportunities for groups. Arrangers are then forced to make more specific choices for the groups that they're arranging for. Directors and quartetters have to develop a stronger understanding of their group's strengths and limitations so they can select repertoire that just works at all. And I believe that this skill set will spread throughout the barbershop community, even to single-gender ensembles that haven't had to be as thoughtful about these considerations in the past. The rise of mixed barbershop is going to make all of us in the barbershop community smarter, choosier, and more specific in how we understand our own ensembles. I believe that barbershoppers 10 to 15 years from now will be significantly better at cultivating repertoire that suits their memberships and their ensembles, and we will have this experimental era of mixed barbershop to thank for it. And I think, I wanted to mention this because this is a part of Everyone in Harmony that we're not really talking about now, but we're going to feel it over the next 10 to 15 years, and I think we're all going to be a lot better off for it. Furthermore, I just believe that the growing variety of people and ensembles is making our barbershop community and style more vibrant. Go to a contest at any level and you'll see an incredible variety of song choices, singing styles, performance styles, and humanity in general. And I believe that this variety makes us stronger. So I could probably go on further about all the great things about barbershop today. There's plenty I haven't touched on, like the rise of barbershop globally and all kinds of other stuff. But at this point, I think it's helpful to get into why this might be important for us now, and why it's important for us to consider the idea that now is the best time to be a barbershopper. So I want to return to something that I mentioned near the beginning of this address as something that you might have as a counter-argument, which is the internet. I've been involved in the barbershop community on Facebook since the days of the Barbershop Kids Facebook group and the original Barbershop Enthusiasts group back in like 2011, 2012. And I have seen a lot of the drama on the mean streets of the barbershop internet. And in recent years, I've come to a really just important conclusion for myself personally, and that's that the internet is not real life. As someone who's been involved on the barbershop internet for a long time, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't learn this lesson until 2022. I remember the fall of 2019 when the internet was exploding in arguments about changing contest structures in the wake of Everyone in Harmony. Then COVID shut us down, and the time we would have previously spent singing was spent arguing on the internet. Social issues like race relations, masking, and vaccines inevitably bled into barbershop. BHS and Harmony Foundation went to court. The barbershop internet was an absolute mess for nearly 3 years with no way to come together in person. I was still active and engaged in my own local barbershop communities, but I was becoming really jaded and discouraged and disengaged with the barbershop community as a whole. And then I went to Charlotte for International in 2022 and had one of the best weeks of my life. There were so many smiles, laughs, and hugs. There was rampant tag singing from the moment we arrived on Monday to the moment we left the next Sunday. Like, I have never sung that many tags as an international. Charlotte was just incredible in that. An eager audience greeted every quartet and chorus with raucous enthusiasm, no matter the group's combination of genders. For any of you who might have been there for the first session of the quarterfinals that year, it was just such an electric environment. Like, it was still a kind of empty arena in Charlotte, but you couldn't tell because everyone was so fired up for every single quartet that crossed the stage. It didn't matter who they were. The barbershop community that I experienced in person in Charlotte was nothing like the war zone that had been on Facebook for the previous 3 years. And that's when I understood it, that the internet is not real life. That's continued to be true since then. International in Cleveland last year was an overwhelmingly positive experience. Amazing singing throughout the week, an extremely supportive crowd, and a venue that made it easier for competitors to feel that crowd support than in past years. And somehow that amazing in-person experience turned into weeks of ugly internet arguments, members of a top 10 quartet being bullied and harassed, and a long and drawn-out discussion on if barbershop is or ever was a G-rated art form. But that's not what it was like in Cleveland. The internet's not real life. Then there was Midwinter this year, a blast of a convention with beautiful weather in San Antonio, wonderful performances from our youth and seniors, amazing shows all weekend, and young people sharing their palpable enthusiasm for barbershop. I saw impromptu performances by youth choruses in the lobby during show intermissions. I saw Dave and Will from Gimme 4 give a pep talk to a youth chorus who had just absolutely crushed a Gimme 4 chart. It was a truly soul-filling weekend. And on the internet, the main outcome of that convention was barbershoppers of all ages belittling literal children for not knowing the contest rules. The internet's not real life. It's just not. And people don't behave the same way on the internet that they do in real life. Yeah. I wasn't expecting any preaches tonight. Thank you for that. It makes me feel really good about myself. And I think this is important to remember because, unfortunately, I think most of us spend more time on the internet than we do at barbershop conventions. And so we have these amazing experiences together, then we let those experiences get tainted when we re-experience them through the eyes of the internet. The internet will try to convince us that barbershop is dying, that BHS hasn't done anything right in 40 years, that everyone in barbershop hates each other, that the music is worse than ever. The internet will have us believe that now is the worst moment to be a barbershopper, and if we let it, the internet will make that true. Part of that is because right now there are too many people who once experienced this community in person, but now mostly only experience it through the internet. Most of you probably have people like that in your lives. Perhaps there will be people watching this on YouTube later who fit that description. And so for a moment, I'm going to talk to them, though you here in the room should feel free to pass along this message as well. So if you've walked away and your interaction with the barbershop community is mostly on the internet, here is my advice. Go to the things. Go to the things. I don't care, I don't care how mad you are at the state of barbershop. Go to a convention, watch the performances with an open mind, sing tags, meet new people. I think everyone in this room with me here can confirm that barbershop is still a lot of fun, and we're still having a blast with this. And all that we're missing is you that are missing out on this right now. All right, now turning this back to all of you here in person, my best advice I can give is that if you do participate in social media, strive to make that participation a real reflection of what your in-person barbershop experience is like. I celebrate my choruses a lot on social media because I love my corner of the barbershop world. I want the members of my choruses to know that I love them, and I want other people to know how much fun we're having in the Houston barbershop scene. And I want to see the joy from every single one of you, too. We may not have the power to overcome all the negativity in the world on social media, but I know that we have the power to overcome the negativity within our own barbershop community. I know that. So we've done plenty of comparing the present to the past, so let's shift our focus to the future. This is a moment in our history when we can take stock of our own corners of the barbershop world and ask, what do we offer now, and how can we bring more people into that? What kind of experiences are people looking for, and are those being provided? How can I help fill in the gaps? This moment in time, with new choruses and chapters popping up, and with so many chapters and choruses reimagining their futures, this is the perfect moment for us to build and nourish the barbershop ecosystem and community that we want to see. The possibilities are endless if we choose to see them and work towards them. And so that leads me to maybe the most important reason that right now is the best time to be a barbershopper. And that's because it has to be. If we don't believe in what we're doing now, then what hope can we have for the future? Now is the best time to be a barbershopper because we're here right now and we get to shape the future. Our music has value. Our education has value. Our community has value. We have something incredible to offer to the world and to all people out there. And we must keep our eyes on that if we want this community to grow and thrive. Kevin Keller once said this, or something like it in a keynote, and I believe it wholeheartedly, which is, barbershop is already preserved. That's the work that we've been doing for almost 100 years as a society, through all the recordings that we have, all the arrangements that we have, all of the recordings that are available to people. As I said, it's never been easier to find barbershop. You can find basically the whole history of barbershop online already. We've preserved barbershop, but now our focus should be on preserving the hobby and the community, and we do that by celebrating the music and the people who make it. So that's my case, and I believe in it. Now, right now, is the best time ever to be a barbershopper. Well, at least so far. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.